Hey everybody, Andrew here. Another review. Now this one is, I suppose, an evolution of something that I did before. Last year, I think it was last October or around then, I went over to Germany, over to the Dampfermesse, so the big vape festival, or the vape convention or group or meeting or whatever it is you want to call it. And while I was there, I met Navy lifeguards who I'd sort of spoken to beforehand, and many other people. And I ended up sitting beside a chap, Artur. And Artur, subsequently, he's the inventor or the maker, well, inventor and maker of this particular thing here, which is the flashy vapor. Now we're talking the top part here. And the flashy vapor, I tried it, I thought it was fantastic, and he very kindly gave me one to bring away with me, and this is it here. And I subsequently did a review, which is up there on my channel if you want to have a look at it. And essentially what it is, it's an atomizer, but the way it works is it's a rebuildable, it's got a tank on it, but it just works slightly differently than some of the other atomizers, or rather most of the other atomizers that are out there. And at the time, I thought it was absolutely terrific, and I've been using it ever since. And listen, I mean, this is serious quality. I mean, this, you know, I could imagine in 100 years' time, you'd still be using it. It's bulletproof and works really well. So then out of the blue, I hadn't been in contact with him for a while. Out of the blue, I got an email with a DHL number on it. So I wondered what this was all about, and it turns out I got in touch with him, and on the way to me was a flashy vapor, except this time it was the version 3, the V3. So this previous one was the V2, and here is the V3. So if we put them up side by side, you can see the difference. And there are a number of differences, and if anything, what you'd say is that this is an evolution of this. One of the main obvious differences there is that there's a window in this particular one. And as I said, there are a number of smaller difference, smallish differences within it, but differences that make a difference. And I think what's happened over time is he's had a lot of feedback. He's sold many of these things for many people, particularly in Germany. It's become a real favourite, an atomizer that people just have to have. And so in talking to people, and then obviously him being with his inventive mind, he started, looking and seeing, well, we don't want to change the whole thing because essentially it functions extremely well. But there are a couple of little things, that people perhaps had mentioned, that can perhaps, sort of be changed just to evolve it, to get it to the level where it's really close to perfection. And I think that's what he's managed to do now. And as a vape, it's absolutely gorgeous. There's great taste off it. It's a coolish vape. But it just works fantastically well. So the best thing is we'll go close down, have a look at it, look at the differences between the V2 and the V3, and then what I'll do is I'll put a coil together in it, and then we can have a chat afterwards. So this is what you get in the box. Here's the box, Flashy Vapor V3. Now, just to go through what we have here, we have the unit itself. Then we also, as you can see here, we have this see-through window for the tank, but we also have a metal version there. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what you can do is you can order it either with this or with this. So the two don't come together, but you can order that and then order one of those as well as a separate, or, obviously the other way around. So also, in addition to that, there is this material here, which Artur reckons is one of the best for working within this. And it is a sort of a wicking material. It's called Ortmann Schnur, I think it is. and it can be got on his website, and it's just like it's a different kind of a wick, but it seems to work very well. If it, you know, I suppose it's slightly harder to work with because of this loose weave, but you get used to it very, very quickly. Also, what came was some 0.16 nichrome. Then here we have a little pin to help us actually put the wick together, and put the coil together rather. And then this stuff here, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's cotton, and it's a cotton braided wick, and this is what's used to bring the liquid from the tank here down to the coil down below, which is sighted in here, and I'll show that to you in a minute. But this is really, really good stuff, and I want to see where I can get more of it. I mean, you can obviously buy it from the Flashy Vapor site. It doesn't cost much at all, but it just seems to work very, very well as a feeding wick. And then on top of that, you can see here on the front, we have this little hole, and basically that's the airflow going into the unit. And what you can do is you can swap that out and put in one of these ones here. So basically you've got three sizes that come. You've got a 1.1, a 1.2 and a 1.4 is the size. And then in addition to that, if you want to, but as a separate, you can buy an even bigger one, which is this one here, which is a 1.6. So what we'll do is we'll move these bits and pieces away, and then maybe do a quick comparison between this, the Flashy Vapor V3, if it'll stay where it's meant to stay, and its predecessor, which was the Flashy Vapor V2, obviously. So there's the two of them. Turn it around so that you're seeing the same view from both of them. And there they are, side by side. And as you can see, they are virtually identical. The only difference in this case is that we have a see-through window. Other than that, they look pretty much the same. They're the same height, if I can get them lined up properly. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just pull back on this a little bit tight. They are exactly the same height. They've got the same characteristics, same drip tip, but there are a number of sort of key differences between this and this. So what we'll do now is we'll go through them and I can show you what they are. Okay, looking on the outside, the first thing that you'll see is a difference is at the bottom here we have an adjustable pin, which is fantastic because on the previous one, you can see it there, it wasn't adjustable. So for instance, if I wanted to put this onto my Provari or the other one onto my Provari when I had a beauty ring on it, it just wouldn't quite meet the contact with the Provari. Whereas with this, all I need to do is unscrew this a little bit and it works perfectly. Other than that, yes, we have this here. And if we were to take that off and change it over to the metal one, I'll show you what this looks like with the metal tank in place. And there it is there with the metal tank in place. Beautifully, beautifully made. Basically the size of this is 23 at the bottom there, but the bit inside, if you like, is 22. And when you actually stick it onto a mod, I'll do that shortly, to me it looks absolutely fine, because this knurled piece here does sit proud of the mod, but then again it sits proud of this side as well. So that basically it looks like it's, you know, it doesn't look out of place. It's not like the whole thing heads off at 23 mils up at the top. So I think it looks very, very smart. Now just take all these bits one after the other. No particular sequence to it. Oops. Take this out here, here, and And then this last part here, always losing something, this last part here just pulls off here. So, now looking at this, this is the deck, this is where it all happens. And there have been a couple of changes here in comparison to the previous, I'm going a little bit closer, in comparison to the previous version, to the V2 version. The first thing is that these posts here are now stainless steel, whereas they used to be, here's the V2, you can see that they were actually brass. But there were requests for that to be changed, and so he has changed it, and it's now stainless steel. The other thing that you'll notice is that at the bottom there was the insulator there has now been changed from the material that was there to this. You see it's white now, what's on it, and that's peak, and that stuff apparently can take up to 450 degrees temperature, so that just makes sure that, you know, no matter how hot it gets down here, it's not going to melt, it's not going to affect it at all. So that's basically the difference of what's actually happening down there. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier on, show it nice and close, there is our adjustable pin, which you can turn to go in and out, so that it means that it'll fit flush to whatever it is that you're trying to actually put it in. So that's all good there. Now, what else? Yes, before I put this back together again, and I show you how to do that, you can also get this, which is a top cap, and this, which is an extended air tube for the middle of it. So what this means is that you're actually going to be able to increase the capacity of the flashy vapor from 5 mils up to 9 mils. And 9 mils, I mean, it's a huge amount of liquid in this. So what I might do quickly is just show you what this looks like. So again, and just before I do that, this is the last time I'm going to say this because I keep going on about it. The quality of this is just astonishing. I mean, those threads in there, they have to be about the best that I've seen on anything. They're just perfection. When you look at the knurling, I mean, it just couldn't be any better really. And then when we look inside the top caps here, and these are serious bits of metal here, just beautifully turned, beautifully made. So what I'll do is I'll just put this back together quickly, and I'll do it with the bigger size. Now this bigger size, so the bigger top cap and this here, come as separates. However, if you had a V2, most of the bits are interchangeable, you know, so you can actually, you know, mix and match between the two. So you can take some of the elements off the V2 and put it onto the V3. But let's just put this together. So first thing in there, we need to get the air tube into it. And so that just basically screws into there, like that. Get that nice and tight. And as you see, let me just show you here. The top there, this here at the top of the air tube is actually the receptacle for the drip tip. So that ultimately actually goes in there like that. So if I put this in here, you can see it's just a big hole at the moment. And I put this in, and this is what becomes the receptacle for the drip tip. So the next thing that we need to put on, and I think in this case what we'll do is we'll use the see-through. We put in the see-through tank here. Next thing that goes on is this cuff here. So that goes on there like that. Next thing that goes on is this piece here, which I'm going to show you in a minute. It's got these holes in it here and a recess here. The recess is to take this here, the air channel, and as you can see there's an O-ring there, so that's going to basically push into that and create a seal. And on either side here is where we're going to be putting the cotton in this cotton string that I was showing you, that goes in on either side. And because the liquid's going to be up at the top here, it's going to seep down through these two cotton wicks and the two cotton strings down onto the coil. But anyway, that goes on there like that. And then this goes on here. Now you'll see this can only go on one way basically. There's a little pin there sticking out and there's a little recess here. So basically that's how it has to go on, like that. Now, as ever, sometimes, you know, when you get something new or if they get gunged up a little bit, the O-rings can be a little bit stiff. So rather than sort of pinching them and, you know, causing a problem, sometimes it's better to actually just put a little bit of liquid on, just to lubricate it before you put it in. But that goes in nicely now. So looking at that, that is the full mega 9 mils of juice size. And if we put it to the size of the, let's get it here, of the V2, which remember was the size of the smaller, you know, it's identical to the 5 mil version of this. If we put them side by side, you can see the difference. If I can show them to you there. So this one here, 5 mil, this one here beside it is, can I show it to you this way here? Oh, my desk's at it again. There you go. There's the difference between the two of them. So a fair bit taller this one here, but at the same time it means you don't have to fill it up for ages. Now, just before I go ahead and put a coil into this, one thing I did want to show you was the airflow within it. And basically, we pull the bottom off here, and you can see on the inside there, you can see this little screw poking through. And if you look from this side, you can see that there's a hole within it. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, the three sizes that you get with it is 1.1, 1.2, 1.4 and a 1.6. And if you want to change that to one of the other sizes, all you do is just get a small screwdriver and unscrew it like that, and then basically, in this case it's a smaller one, I think it's a 1.2 that's going in, and you basically just pop that in and screw it back up like that, and now you've got your airflow changed, which is great. Right, let's set a little coil up on this baby. Now, Artur's favourite setup, he likes using this nichrome, and as I said, it's 0.16 nichrome. And then what he'll do is he'll do 4 wraps around 2 pieces of this ornament like that. I'm going to pull back a little bit, I think. And that's what I've been vaping recently. It comes out at about sort of 2 ohms, and then you fire it off at, you know, maybe about 4.2 volts or 9 watts or something like that, and it just works really, really nice. But for this one, seeing as I took a perfect coil out of this, I want to just try and do something ever so slightly different. So, because not many people would necessarily have nichrome in their little box, I'm going to do this with 0.20 Canthal instead. And we'll just see if it sort of tastes any different, but it should be pretty similar, I would have thought. So let's get a little piece of this off. So here we have it folded over in 2. We just put the pin in place, and then I'm going to do 4 wraps of 0.2 Canthal. And we'll see how this turns out. So we go 1, and try and make them nice and neat. Okay, and we have, remember, both legs are coming out on the same side. So let's undo the messy one at the beginning there. So we've got 3 there, so we need 1 more. and that's 4. So that's what it's looking like there, with our 2 pieces coming off the back like that. Okay, so then what we need to do is essentially attach this on, and the easiest thing to do is to keep the needle in place, and then what you can do is basically push the needle up against the 2 posts like that, and then let's wrap in our first one there and hold it down and screw that down, and that should have us nice and tight in there. Yeah, that seems to be okay. And then what we'll do is get this one underneath this post here like that. Not sure if you can see this. So we end up with something like that. So just making sure now that we have everything all nice and tight, which we do, we can actually snip off the ends. So there's one gone, and there's the other one gone. So now all we need to do is basically raise this up. So we raise this up on top like this. Okay, so it's looking like that there. And once we got that all in place, looking good, we can take the pin out. Now, the way this is going to work is that the 2 holes, oh, wrong piece, the 2 holes here are going to have wick going in, this cotton string, and it's going to basically come through there, and then it's going to touch onto these 2 points here. So here and here. So that's why we need to have the screws covered on the top, because that's where it's going to actually touch onto. Okay, so we want to also, in case some liquid ends up down in the chamber here, which isn't terribly likely, but if it does, what we want to do is use one of these pieces here and just tuck it down so that onto the bottom there, so it'll basically pick up anything, any liquid that ends up down at the bottom. So we can just basically turn that in there, and that's probably a bit more than I need, so let's cut this a bit off that. And sorry if I'm going out of camera here, but it's never easy to keep. Let's just do this here like that. Okay, so what I'm then doing is I'm just basically tucking that down there like that, and then of the other pieces that are there, we can cut this one off flush with the edge like that. It'll cut. It's like cutting hair, this stuff. And then over on the other side here, we'll do the same thing. We'll cut these 2 so that they're sort of flush with the side. So we end up with something looking like that. Now all we need to do is basically give it a bit of a dousing. So let's put some liquid on here. And then put the liquid right the way down to the bottom of that one there, because that just makes it easier to then just place it so that it can live down at the bottom there and soak up any extra liquid that happened to drip down there. So that kind of looks pretty good to me. Just get rid of these couple of strays on the side here. Like that. So remember, when we're putting this part on, we need to make sure that that little notch is going over this little post here. So what we'll do is just gently slide that on like that. So that's in place now. So we have our coil, you can see inside there. So next part of the operation is to put in some of this cotton. And this is very, very simple. All we need to do is basically just thread it in and push it down Very simple if you're not doing it on a camera. Push it down so that you can feel that it's touching, and then basically snip that off like that, and then do exactly the same thing on the other side. So put that down, push this down until you can feel that it's touching the wick down below, and then just snip it off like that. And there we are, ready to go. Now, best thing to do at this point is again just put a little bit of liquid in there. And what will happen is, because this is cotton, it's going to expand. So with a little bit of liquid in there, those little pieces now are essentially going to stay in place, but will wick all the liquid plenty enough so that you're not going to get dry hits or anything straight down onto the coil. So our next piece is to actually put some liquid into the tank and put this in place. And by the way, where you can see the little bits of cotton there and those little holes, if you look inside here, obviously this hole in the middle pushes down into this hole, sorry, this hole in the middle here pushes down into this, okay? So the flange that's on the edge there, that you can see going around above the O-ring, that actually pushes down slightly on either side of the bits of cotton that are there. So there's no chance of them actually coming out at all. They will stay in place. The fact that they've been expanded by the liquid, but also the fact that that flange there is to keep them in place. Okay, now all I need to do is fill this up, and as I said before, this takes 5 mils of liquid, and I haven't got it in a syringe here, but basically what we do is we just fill it up so that it's just under the screw at the top there. So plenty of liquid in there, and then simply turn this over and screw it into place. Like that. And now we've got a fully filled up, fully ready to go Flashy Vapor V3. So let me just stick it onto the Provari. In fact I won't, I'm going to stick it onto a Nemesis here. And there we are, ready to go. So there we have it. Sitting very pretty on a Nemesis. And let's have a go. Now, as ever, coils take a little while to sort of bed in. But let's just see what it's like. I tell you, this one doesn't take much bedding in. Okay, what I'm using in this is Cigarillos, which is my normal liquid, so I know what it tastes like in pretty much everything, and the flavour coming off this is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's top notch. Now that's, I think, was, what did I say, 1.5 or 1.6 coil sitting on a fairly fresh battery on the Nemesis there. And as I think you can probably see, what I was mentioning earlier on about this bit in the middle, you see this is all 22 here, and then this is 22 beyond the knurling. That doesn't look out of place to me at all. I think that looks absolutely fine. And some people, I'm sure, would prefer not to see through and have this see-through window, but I like it. I must say I do. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change out the 1.4 for the 1.6 air hole on it there. I'll be back in a second, we'll see what it's like. Okay, back with the 1.6. Let's see what this one's like. It's absolutely gorgeous. I would without doubt say that this has to be one of the best atomizers out there. Flavour wise, yeah, making the coil, I haven't tried a microcoil in it yet, but I will do. But it just seems to, it's very easy to put together. It's very, very robust. It's very, very flavourful, or flavoursome even. But I don't know, I think it's just absolute, and I think it looks great as well. I mean, it really does. Top marks to Artur. It's really, really good. Now, does it taste any different than the V2? It doesn't really. I mean, it still functions in exactly the same way. It's just got some of those enhancements on it that just make the difference. You know, small enhancements, but you know, good things nonetheless. So, price-wise, €114.90, and this is all on Flash. Was it flash-e-vapor vapor.de in Germany? So 114.90, and that is either with this clear one or with this, the metal one, as far as I know. But you can buy, if you want both, you can buy the main unit and then buy separately the connector. So the connectors are $12.90, whether that be for the see-through one or for the metal one. And then also for the 1.6mm screw, which I just put in there, that's €2.50. For an extension, which is the extension air duct, or the air piece in the middle, is $10.90. And for the extended top part to actually take that is €14.90. So, and then he also has for sale a cone, a beauty ring. Well, not for this one, but for going on a Pravari as well. So that's specifically made for it, so that it means it'll just sit nice and flush on top of the Pravari. And other than that, you can also get from him, you can get, you know, service kit. You can buy the cotton cord, which I think is just terrific stuff. That's $150. I'm not sure how long it is, but it's $150 he charges for that. And then for the Ortman wick, the hairy stuff inside it, 4 meters of that, which is 3mm wide, 4 meters of that is €5. So the one good thing with Artur and what he makes and everything, I think it's all extremely good value. This guy is not out to rip you off. This is a serious piece of kit, and I think the price is very, very good for what you're actually getting. The other thing is that if you have a V2 already, you know, there's elements of it that are interchangeable with the V3 as well. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I think it is absolutely fantastic. I really do love it. The vape quality is amazing. The 5mm or 9mm, if you buy the extended one, is just crazy. 9mm in a tank is just terrific. You know, the changing of the airflow, everything about it is just the business. And I think really this is a real vapors atomizer. And it's made by a vapor for vapors. So I wouldn't hesitate in recommending it. So hope you enjoyed it, hope you got something from it, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers!